My parents went to a beach resort with my siblings and left me home to focus on school. When they returned, I was gone, and so was every photo of me in the house. I need to start by saying that growing up, I always knew something was off. There's a difference between being treated fairly and being treated like an afterthought, and by the time I turned 16, I could map out exactly where I stood in my family's hierarchy. Spoiler alert, it was at the bottom. My name is Cheryl, and I'm a middle child in a family of 5 kids. Above me are Tyler and Madison, the golden twins who could do no wrong. Below me are Chloe and little Ethan, who got away with everything because they were the babies. Then there was me, stuck in the middle, neither remarkable enough to praise nor young enough to cuddle. Growing up in suburban Ohio, our house always seemed full of noise and activity. But if you looked closer, you'd notice that most of that activity centered around everyone except me. Tyler's basketball games, Madison's dance recital, Chloe's art shows, Ethan's everything because he was the youngest. My academic achievements. They got a nod at dinner, maybe a good job, before the conversation shifted to Tyler's latest college recruitment offer. The inequality wasn't always obvious. It crept in slowly, like water damage behind walls. Tyler got a car for his 17th birthday. Madison got a completely redecorated bedroom for hers. When my 17th came around, I got a gift card to Target, and I will take you out to dinner sometime this week. That dinner happened 3 weeks later at Applebee's, where we spent the entire meal discussing Chloe's upcoming school play. But this story really begins in March of my junior year. Spring break was approaching, and for weeks my family had been buzzing about plans. Dad had apparently scored some amazing deal at a beach resort in Florida through his company, enough to take the whole family for a week. The whole family, as it turned out, had conditions. I was sitting at the kitchen table working on calculus homework when Mom dropped the bomb. She didn't even sit down, just stood by the counter organizing her purse, like what she was about to say was completely casual. "Cheryl, honey, we've been thinking. Your SATs are coming up in May, and your grades in AP chemistry have been slipping a bit. My grades hadn't been slipping. I had a 94, which was an A, but apparently not good enough, Dad. And I think it would be best if you stayed home during spring break to really focus on studying. You know how important junior year is for college applications." I looked up from my textbook. "What the beach trip?" she continued, still not making eye contact. "It would be a lot of distractions, and you really need to buckle down. We're doing this for your future." Tyler walked in at that moment, bone in hand. "Mom, did you pack my new swim trunks yet?" The reality hit me like cold water. They were all going. Everyone except me. "You're serious." My voice came out flat. Mom finally looked at me, and I saw something in her expression that made my stomach turn. It wasn't guilt or even pity. It was relief. Relief that I hadn't made a scene. Relief that I was making this easy for her. "It's only a week, Cheryl. Mrs. Chen next door already agreed to check in on you. Well, leave money for groceries." That's when Dad came in, already excited. "Tyler, buddy, I booked us a deep-sea fishing charter. And Madison, the resort has a dance club that hosts competitions every night." Nobody looked at me. The week before they left was surreal. Everyone was packing, shopping for new beach clothes, talking about restaurants they wanted to try. I moved through the house like a ghost, and honestly, that's exactly how they treated me. When I tried to bring up the unfairness of the situation to Dad, he just sighed and said, "Cheryl, don't be dramatic. Sometimes sacrifices have to be made for the good of your future." Funny how my future always seemed to require sacrifices, while Tyler's and Madison's futures required beach vacations and fishing charters. The morning they left, Mom hugged me at the door. It felt performative, like she was checking off a box. Be good. Study hard. There's $300 on the counter for food. I watched from the window as they loaded into the van, everyone laughing and excited. Ethan pressed his face against the window and waved at me. At least the 8-year-old felt bad about leaving me behind. The door closed. The van pulled away. I stood in the silent house for a long time, just breathing. Then I went upstairs to my room and pulled out my laptop. I'd been planning this for 3 days, ever since I'd fully accepted that they were really going to leave me behind. But the planning had actually started much earlier, in small ways I hadn't even fully recognized at the time. 6 months ago, I'd opened my own bank account at a different bank than my parents used. I told them I wanted to learn financial responsibility, and they'd been so disinterested that they just signed the papers without really looking at them. I'd been depositing money from my part-time job at the library ever since. Not all of it, just most of it, while showing my parents a fake balance that looked smaller. I'd also been quietly gathering my important documents, birth certificate, social security card, medical records. I'd found them in Dad's filing cabinet during one of my studying sessions in his home office. He never locked it because he never imagined any of us would go through it. I'd made copies at the library, then replaced the originals. My Aunt Linda, my mom's sister, lived in Portland, Oregon. We'd always gotten along during her rare visits, and she told me years ago that if I ever needed anything, I could call her. She and my mom had some kind of falling out about 5 years back. Something about Aunt Linda calling Mom out for how she treated me. They barely spoke anymore. I called her that first afternoon. Cheryl, she sounded surprised. Honey, is everything okay? Aunt Linda, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. That offer you made about me being able to come to you if I needed to, did you mean it? There was a pause. What happened? I told her everything. The beach trip, being left behind, years of being overlooked and dismissed. My voice stayed steady the whole time, which surprised me. I'd expected to cry, but instead I just felt cold and determined. Pack your bags, she said when I finished. I'm booking you a flight right now. You're getting out of there. They won't even know I'm gone. Until they get back, I said. Good. Let them come home to an empty room. Maybe then they'll realize what they've lost. That's when the plan really crystallized in my mind. I wasn't just going to leave. I was going to erase myself. Over the next 2 days, I worked. I started with the photographs. Our house was filled with family photos on the walls, on shelves, on the mantle, over the fireplace. I went through every single one and removed any picture that included me, just me specifically. If it was a family photo with all of us, I took it down. If it was a photo of me alone, I took that too. If it was a photo of just my siblings, I left it. The bookshelf in the living room had family photo albums going back years. I went through each one and removed every photo of me. Birthday parties, Christmas mornings, school pictures, random candid shots. All of it went into a box. I found my baby book in the hall closet. Mom had been really into scrapbooking when Tyler and Madison were born, but by the time I came along, the enthusiasm had waned. Still, there was a book with my name on it, thinner than my siblings' books, but still there. I took it. My room was next. I packed methodically. Clothes, books, my laptop, things that matter to me. But I also took down every piece of decoration that proved Cheryl had existed in this space. Posters, drawings, the little shelf with my childhood stuffed animals. The room wasn't empty when I was done, but it was generic, like a guest room, like nobody had actually lived there. I found my official school records in Dad's office, along with my passport that I'd gotten for a school trip freshman year, that I'd ended up not going on because Madison's dance competition was the same weekend. More things that documented my existence, all going into my boxes. Aunt Linda had booked me a flight for Friday afternoon, 2 days into their trip. That gave me time to be thorough. Wednesday night, I ordered pizza and ate it sitting on the floor of my increasingly bare room surrounded by boxes. Mrs. Chen had checked in once, knocked on the door, and asked if I needed anything through the mail slot. I told her I was fine, just studying. She seemed satisfied with that and left. She was supposed to check on me daily, but knowing my parents, they'd probably told her I was mature and independent and didn't need much supervision. Thursday, I went further. I logged into my parents' computer. The password was Tyler's birthday naturally and went through their digital photos. Years of digital memories on hard drives and USB sticks. I transferred every photo of me onto an external drive. Then I began deleting them from every device and folder I could find in the house. Their computer, Dad's laptop, the tablet they shared. I knew their cloud storage would be trickier. Photos deleted from services like Google Photos and iCloud go to a trash folder for 60 days before permanent deletion. But I wasn't trying to erase myself forever from their digital world. I was making a point. They'd notice the empty spaces on their devices immediately. And even if they could recover some files later, the shock of seeing them gone would hit exactly as I intended. Some photos were only stored locally and would be gone for good. Others they might retrieve, but only after desperately searching and realizing what they'd lost. I did the same thing with their Facebook accounts, Instagram, even Mom's Pinterest. Any photo that showed me, I downloaded, then deleted. I untagged myself from everything. I left comments and posts, but removed visual evidence of my existence. My siblings' rooms were next. Madison had a corkboard covered in photos. I took down the ones with me in them. Tyler had a framed photo on his desk from a family trip to Cedar Point a few years ago. I took it. Even little Ethan's room yielded a few photos. He had a little album of family memories that Mom had made him. I carefully removed the pages that featured me. By Thursday night, I'd accumulated 3 large boxes of photographs and memorabilia, plus my personal belongings. The house looked almost normal if you didn't know what to look for. But if you did, you'd notice the gaps. Empty spots on walls where frames had been, thin patches and photo albums where pictures had been removed. I'd created a ghost house, evidence that someone had been removed, but no proof of who. Friday morning, I called an Uber to take me to the airport. I left the $300 Mom had given me on the kitchen counter with a note that just said, "Won't be needing this." The boxes of photos and documents went with me, packed into 2 large suitcases and a carry-on. If they wanted their memories back, they'd have to find me first. The flight to Portland felt like I was breathing for the first time in years. Aunt Linda picked me up from the airport, and when I saw her waiting at arrivals with tears in her eyes, something in my chest finally loosened. "You're safe now," she said, hugging me tight. "You're safe, and you're wanted here." Her apartment was small, but cozy, and she'd already set up the spare room for me. That night, we stayed up late talking, and I learned things about my family that I'd never known. Aunt Linda told me that she'd watched Mom become increasingly obsessed with Tyler and Madison from the moment they were born, and that when I came along, it was like Mom saw me as a disruption to the perfect twin narrative she'd constructed. I tried to say something. Aunt Linda said multiple times, "That's why we don't talk anymore. Your mom accused me of trying to interfere in her parenting." "You were right, though," I said quietly. "I know, but being right doesn't always matter to people who don't want to hear it." Meanwhile, back in Florida, my family was presumably having a wonderful time. I blocked all their numbers, but Aunt Linda hadn't. She was the one who took the first call. They didn't call until Sunday evening, the day before they were supposed to come home. Mom's voice on the voicemail was casual, asking if Aunt Linda had heard from me because I wasn't answering my phone. "Probably just studying hard," Mom had said with a little laugh. They had no idea. Monday afternoon, Aunt Linda's phone started ringing constantly. The voicemail shifted from confused to concerned to panicked. "Linda, Cheryl isn't here. The house is empty. Have you heard from her? Linda, please, if you know where Cheryl is, we need to know she's safe. Linda, this isn't funny. Call us back immediately." Aunt Linda let them stew for a full day before finally answering Tuesday evening. "She's with me," Aunt Linda said calmly. "She's safe, and she's not coming back." Mom apparently lost it at that point, demanding to talk to me, threatening to call the police. Aunt Linda cut her off. "She's 17. Sarah, almost 18. The police aren't going to drag her back to a house where she's been neglected and treated like she doesn't exist. And before you argue that you haven't neglected her, maybe you should take a walk around your house. Take a good look at the walls, the photo albums, the digital files. Notice anything missing?" The silence on the other end must have been deafening. She erased herself. "Sarah, because you'd already done it emotionally. She just made it physical. Every photo, every memory, every piece of evidence that she existed in your family, she took it all. You want to know where your daughter is? She's somewhere she's actually wanted. And if you want those memories back, you're going to have to earn them." Aunt Linda told me later that Mom had started crying and that Dad had grabbed the phone and started making threats about legal action. Aunt Linda, who worked as a family lawyer, calmly explained exactly how badly that would go for them if they tried, especially given the documentation we had of their favoritism and neglect. "You left a minor child alone for a week to take her siblings on vacation." Aunt Linda said, "You told her it was for her own good, to focus on school, but really it was because you couldn't be bothered to include her. You have years of evidence of excluding her, minimizing her, treating her like she's less important than your other children. Do you really want that examined in family court? They backed down, but they didn't give up. Over the next few weeks, I got emails, letters sent to Aunt Linda's address, text messages from numbers I didn't have blocked. Madison wrote me a long letter about how she never realized I felt left out and how she was sorry. Tyler sent a short text saying that was harsh. Becklow sent a drawing with a sad face and "Come home" written in crayon. The one that almost broke me was from Ethan. Aunt Linda handed me the letter, and I recognized his careful, second-grade handwriting immediately. Dear Cheryl, are you mad at me too? I miss you. I kept your favorite mug for you. Love, eat them. I cried reading that one, but I didn't respond. Mom and Dad's messages oscillated between apologetic and accusatory. One day, I'd get an email about how sorry they were, how they wanted to make things right. The next day, it would be about how I was tearing the family apart, how I was being selfish and dramatic. That told me everything I needed to know. They still didn't get it. Aunt Linda helped me enroll in a new school in Portland. My transcript transferred easily enough, and I was able to finish my junior year and start my senior year in an environment where I wasn't constantly compared to my siblings or made to feel invisible. The first day at Lincoln High School, I walked through those doors expecting to fade into the background like always. Instead, a girl named Sati approached me at lunch and asked if I wanted to sit with her group. No ulterior motive, no pity in her eyes, just genuine friendliness. I almost said no out of habit before catching myself. Yeah, I'd like that, I managed to say. That lunch table became my safe space. Sadi introduced me to Marcus, who had the driest sense of humor I'd ever encountered, and twins named Ashley and Amber, who finished each other's sentences, but actually listened when you talked. Within weeks, they knew more about me than my own family had learned in years. When my birthday came around in November, Sadie showed up at Aunt Linda's apartment with cupcakes she'd baked herself and a card signed by the whole group. I cried, which embarrassed me, but Sati just hugged me and said, "Good tears. I hope they were." I made actual friends, people who wanted to spend time with me, who remembered my birthday, who asked about my day, and actually listened to the answer. I joined the debate team and discovered I was good at it, really good at it. Good enough that by senior year, I was captain and we were winning regional competitions. My debate coach, Mr. Patterson, pulled me aside, particularly strong performance at a tournament in Seattle. You have real talent for this, Cheryl. Have you considered what you want to study in college? Because with your analytical skills and the way you present arguments, you could do anything. It was the first time a teacher had ever spoken to me about my potential, like it was something valuable and worth investing in. Back in Ohio, parent-teacher conferences had been brief affairs, where my teachers would say I was doing fine before my parents rushed off to Tyler's basketball banquet or Madison's dance rehearsal. Here, someone was actually seeing me like it was something valuable and worth investing in. Back in Ohio, parent-teacher conferences had been brief affairs, where my teachers would say I was doing fine before my parents rushed off to Tyler's basketball banquet or Madison's dance rehearsal. Here, someone was actually seeing me and what I could become. The debate team traveled for competitions, and those trips showed me what friendship actually looked like. We'd pile into the school van, and people would fight over who got to sit next to me. We'd share headphones and snacks, stay up late in hotel rooms practicing arguments and telling stories. Marcus taught me how to play cards. Ashley and Amber taught me their secret twin language as a joke, but I actually learned it, and we'd use it to communicate across the room during tournaments. I was learning what it felt like to matter to people, to be chosen, not tolerated, to be included, not just present. The attempts of communication from my family gradually decreased as the months of my senior year passed. By the time my 18th birthday rolled around that November, they'd mostly stopped. I got a card from Mom and Dad with a check for $500 inside. No personal message, just their signatures. I applied to colleges that fall of my senior year. I got into UCLA with a partial scholarship, planning to major in psychology. Aunt Linda cried when I got the acceptance letter. Proud tears this time. I donated the money to a charity for neglected children and sent them the receipt. Madison reached out on social media right before Christmas, posting a family photo from their holiday gathering with a caption, "Missing one piece of our puzzle this year." The comments were full of people asking who was missing, and Madison didn't respond. I almost laughed. Even in acknowledging my absence, they couldn't actually name me or explain why I was gone. Spring came, and with it, prom season. I went to my Portland prom with a guy named Jason who made me laugh and treated me like I mattered. We took tons of photos, me in a deep blue dress that Aunt Linda helped me pick out, smiling wider than I had in years. I posted exactly one photo to Instagram, my account that I wiped clean of everything from my old life. Just me and Jason, dressed up and happy. I didn't tag my location. I didn't provide context. I just let it exist. Madison commented within minutes, "You look beautiful. I wish I could have been there." I deleted the comment and made my account private. Graduation came in June. I walked across that stage to receive my diploma, and Aunt Linda stood and cheered louder than anyone else in the auditorium. After the ceremony, she took me out to my favorite restaurant, and we toasted to my future with sparkling cider. "I'm proud of you," she said, "for leaving, for surviving, for thriving. You did what you needed to do. I couldn't have done it without you," I replied. "Maybe, but you were the one brave enough to take the first step. My family wasn't at my graduation. I hadn't invited them, and they didn't ask. Moving to California for college felt like the final step in building my new life. Aunt Linda helped me move into my dorm, and we both cried, saying goodbye, but they were good tears. Tears of gratitude and love, not pain. College was exactly what I needed. I threw myself into my studies, made friends who became like family, joined clubs, went to parties, lived the life I'd always deserved. I dated, I laughed, I stayed up too late having deep conversations about everything and nothing. I was happy, I was free. My sophomore year of college, right before Thanksgiving, I got an unexpected call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Cheryl, the voice was older, uncertain. "Dad, how did you get this number?" "Your aunt." I begged her. "Cheryl, please don't hang up." I should have, but curiosity kept me on the line. "What do you want?" "I want to apologize." His voice cracked. "Properly apologize. Not the half-hearted attempts I made before. You were right about everything. We failed you. I failed you." I didn't respond, just listened. "Your mom and I have been in therapy. Family therapy, couples therapy, individual therapy. It took us way too long to realize we needed it, but we're trying. The therapist asked us to do an exercise where we listed important moments in each of our kids' lives. When we got to you, Cheryl, we couldn't fill the page. We couldn't remember your achievements, your milestones, the things that made you happy. We'd been so focused on everyone else that we'd completely overlooked our own daughter. Congratulations on that revelation, I said, my voice cold. What do you want from me? Forgiveness. Permission to feel better about yourselves. No, he said quietly. I know we don't deserve that. I just wanted you to know that we know now. We understand what we did. And if there's ever a time when you want to talk, we'll be here. No pressure, no expectations. Just we'll be here. I'm not coming home, I said firmly. I know home is wherever you are now. I just hope that one day, maybe you'll let us know you a little. The person you've become, but only if you want to, only if it doesn't hurt you. We ended the call shortly after. I sat in my dorm room for a long time afterward processing. Part of me wanted to dismiss it as too little, too late, but another part of me, a smaller part, registered that at least he'd acknowledged what they'd done. I didn't call back, but I didn't block the number either. Junior year, I got an email from Tyler. It was different from his previous attempts at communication. No jokes, no casual tone, just honest words. Cheryl, I've been thinking a lot about when we were kids. I remembered something that I completely forgotten about. You were 12 and you'd won this essay contest at school. You were so excited to tell us about it at dinner. I interrupted you to talk about making varsity basketball as a freshman. Dad immediately shifted all the attention to me, and you just shut down. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but I've been remembering more moments like that. Hundreds of them. Times when you tried to share something and got talked over. Times when your achievements got minimized. Times when you were literally right there and we acted like you weren't. I can't take back being a terrible brother, but I can tell you that I see it now. I see what we did to you, and I'm sorry. You don't have to respond to this. I just needed you to know that I finally understand. I saved that email, but didn't reply. Over the next year, I got similar messages from Madison and Chloe, each one showing more self-awareness than the last. Each one demonstrating that they were genuinely grappling with how they treated me. No excuses, no justifications, just acknowledgement and apology. I still didn't respond, but I read every word. The Christmas after my junior year, a package arrived at Aunt Linda's house, forwarded to my apartment. Inside were photo albums, new ones, carefully assembled. Every picture of me that I'd taken when I left, organized chronologically with handwritten notes. Cheryl, age 3, first day of preschool. You insisted on wearing your snow boots even though it was September. Cheryl, age 7, science fair. You built a volcano and were so proud when it erupted perfectly. Cheryl, age 10, school play. You played a tree and delivered your one line with such conviction. Cheryl, age 14, debate team. Your first competition. You came in second and were disappointed, but we should have told you we were proud. Every photo had a note. Every moment had context. Someone, probably Mom, had taken the time to rebuild what I'd erased, but this time with intention and attention. The last page had a letter, not a photo. In Mom's handwriting, we can't recreate the memories we failed to make with you. We can't put you in photos from trips you weren't invited to, but we can acknowledge every moment we have of you and tell you that we see now what we missed then. We love you, Cheryl. We're sorry it took losing you to realize how much. I closed the album and put it on my shelf. I didn't throw it away, but I didn't call them either. Not yet. Graduation from UCLA came during a heat wave. The ceremony held early in the morning to beat the worst of it. I'd earned my degree in psychology with honors, and I'd already been accepted into a graduate program at the University of Washington for the fall. Aunt Linda was there, of course, along with her girlfriend, Maria, who'd become like a second aunt to me. They cheered and took 1,000 photos, and afterward we went to brunch at this place by the beach. Your family asked if they could come, Aunt Linda said carefully over mimosas. I told them I'd ask you, but that the decision was entirely yours. What did you tell them? That you'd let me know, and that either way, they needed to respect your choice. I sipped my drink, looking out at the ocean. 4 years had passed since I'd left. 4 years of building a life, of healing, of becoming someone I was proud to be. Tell them no, I said finally. Tell them I appreciate that they wanted to come, but I'm not ready. Aunt Linda nodded, understanding. Are you ever going to be ready? I don't know. I admit it. Maybe, but it has to be on my terms when I'm ready, if I'm ever ready. They don't get to rush this just because they finally realized what they lost. Fair enough. My phone buzzed with a text from a number I recognize now. Madison, congrats on graduating. Saw the UCLA posts. We're proud of you. I typed out a response. The first direct communication I'd had with any of them in years. Thank you. Just those 2 words, but it was something. That summer, I moved to Seattle for grad school. I threw myself into my studies, fascinated by family dynamics and childhood trauma. I knew what I was doing, processing my own experiences through academic understanding. But it was working. I was healing in my own way. My second year of grad school, I started doing research on sibling relationships and parental favoritism. My thesis focused on the long-term psychological impacts of being the scapegoat or forgotten child in family systems. My advisor praised it as remarkably insightful and personal without being melodramatic, if only she knew. I was 23 when I finally agreed to meet Mom and Dad for coffee. 5 years after I'd left, 5 years of silence and space and healing. Aunt Linda offered to come with me, but I told her I needed to do this alone. We met at a neutral coffee shop in Portland, halfway between their world and mine. I arrived early and positioned myself at a corner table where I could see the door. Old habits from years of feeling unsafe, dying hard. They walked in looking older than I remembered, smaller somehow. Mom's hair had more gray. Dad had new lines around his eyes. They saw me and froze, like they hadn't quite believed I'd actually show up. I gestured to the seats across from me, and they sat down carefully, like they were afraid sudden movements might spook me. Thank you for agreeing to meet, Mom said, her voice shaky. I just nodded, waiting. We know we can't fix what we did, Dad started. We know that years of neglect and favoritism can't be erased with apologies. We're not here to ask for forgiveness or to beg you to come back into our lives. Then why are you here? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Mom pulled out a letter, sliding it across the table. We wrote this together in therapy. It's everything we want to say, but we'll probably mess up if we try to say it out loud. We're not asking you to read it now or ever. Just please take it. I picked up the envelope, but didn't open it. We sat in awkward silence for a moment before Dad spoke again. Tyler's getting married next year. Chloe's applying to art schools. Madison's a dance instructor now, teaching kids. Ethan's in middle school and taller than your mom. I know, I said, and they both looked surprised. I've been following them on social media from a distance. You have? Mom's eyes filled with tears. I was never mad at them, I said quietly. They were kids too. They learned to treat me the way you treated me. But they've grown up and they've reached out, and I've been watching them become better people. And us? Dad asked. Is there any chance? I don't know, I interrupted. I'm here because Aunt Linda convinced me that I'd regret not at least having this conversation. But I need you to understand something. You don't get to be my parents again just because you finally feel guilty. You don't get to skip past years of damage because you've had some revelations in therapy. If we're going to have any kind of relationship, it starts from zero. You're strangers who share my DNA. Maybe we can build something from there. Maybe we can't. They both nodded, tears streaming down Mom's face now. But I need you to understand why I left the way I did, I continued. You needed to feel the absence. You needed to come home to a house full of ghosts and empty spaces where I used to be. You needed to understand what it felt like to have someone you're supposed to love just not be there, because that's what you did to me for 17 years. I was physically present but emotionally erased. So I made it literal. We understand, Dad whispered. We do now. We talked for another hour. They asked about my life, and I gave them the basics. Grad school, research, friends, my life in Seattle. I didn't give them details, didn't invite them in fully, but I opened the door a crack. When we said goodbye, Mom hugged me, and I let her. It felt strange, but not terrible. I read their letter that night in my apartment. It was 15 pages long, detailing every way they'd failed me. Every moment they now realized they'd dismissed me. Every time they'd chosen my siblings over me. It was painful to read, but it was also validating. Everything I felt, every hurt I carried, they acknowledged it all. The last paragraph stood out. We know we can't undo the past. We know we don't deserve your forgiveness. But we want you to know that we see you now, Cheryl. We see the incredible woman you've become, and we're devastated that we missed watching you become her. If you ever decide to let us be even a small part of your life going forward, we promise to do better. Not because we want to ease our guilt, but because you deserve parents who actually act like parents. We love you. We're sorry we didn't show it when it mattered most. I cried reading it. Years of pain and anger and grief finally releasing. But they weren't just sad tears. They were also relieved tears, healing tears. I didn't rush into anything, but over the next couple of years, I started taking small steps. When Tyler's wedding invitation arrived about 6 months after that coffee meeting, I accepted. I showed up with Aunt Linda as my +1 and sat in the back, but I was there. Afterward, at the reception, Ethan, now a gangly teenager, spotted me and ran over. You came. He hugged me so hard I almost fell over. I've missed you so much. I've missed you too, buddy, I said, and meant it. Madison asked if she could add me back on social media, and I said yes. Chloe sent me pictures of her artwork, and I responded with genuine praise. Small steps, small connections, rebuilding something that had been broken, but maybe didn't have to stay that way forever. I'm 25 now, 3 years into my doctoral program, specializing in family trauma and reconciliation. I have a life I'm proud of, friends who are family, and a sense of self that nobody can take from me. My relationship with my parents is still complicated. We email sometimes. We do occasional video calls. I went home for Christmas last year, spent half the time at their house and half with Aunt Linda, and it was awkward, but not awful. They're trying, genuinely trying, and I can see the effort. But I also know I'll never fully trust them the way a daughter should trust her parents. That ship sailed when they packed up the van and left me behind. Some wounds heal, but leave scars. And some relationships can be rebuilt, but will always be different from what they should have been. The photos they returned to me sit on a shelf in my apartment now. Sometimes I look through them and see a little girl who deserves so much better. But I also see a young woman who saved herself, who had the courage to erase herself from a family that had already done so emotionally and start over somewhere she was valued. Would I do it again? In a heartbeat? Do I regret the pain it caused? No. Sometimes people need to lose something to understand its value. My family lost me, and while they've partially found me again, I'll never be their overlooked middle child again. I'm Cheryl now, not just the forgotten sister or the disappointment. I'm my own person, and they have to accept that, or accept nothing at all. The house where I grew up still has some empty spaces on the walls where pictures used to hang. Mom asked me once if I wanted them to put the photos back up. Only if you want to, I told her. But remember what those empty spaces mean. Remember what it felt like to come home and realize someone you loved had been erased. Remember that feeling the next time you're tempted to overlook someone in favor of someone else. She never did put all the photos back. Some spaces remain empty, a permanent reminder of what almost became permanent loss. I have the photos now in albums and frames in my own home, evidence that I existed, that I mattered, that I was there. But more importantly, I have a life where I don't need photographs to prove my worth. That beach resort trip happened 6 years ago. My family went without me, thinking they were doing me a favor by letting me focus on school. They came back to an empty house and learned the hardest lesson of their lives. I wasn't gone because I was ungrateful or dramatic or selfish. I was gone because I finally chose myself, and that choice saved my life. To anyone reading this who feels invisible in their own family, you're not crazy, you're not too sensitive, your feelings are valid, and you deserve better. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who can't see your value and find people who can. And to my family, if any of them ever read this, I don't hate you. I probably never did, but I will never apologize for leaving. You needed to learn, and I needed to survive. We're both doing better now, separately, and slowly rebuilding something new. But know this, the girl who was left behind that spring break died the day she got on that plane to Portland. The woman I am now was born from that departure. You didn't just lose a daughter that week, you lost who I could have been in your lives. And while we're finding our way back to something resembling a relationship, it will never be what it could have been if you just seen me when it mattered. Sometimes revenge isn't loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's just the quiet act of choosing yourself and letting people realize too late what they had all along.